All right, I am there as well, I think. Yeah, streaming is a fun time.
That's the wrong keyboard, isn't it? Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, everything's should be set up. I'm so sorry. it's a whole process. All right. Okay. Cool. So how did Massive Loop come about?
Okay, so we have two teams basically. One is a game development team, and one was meant to focus on applications. And Yoon has been leading that team. When we think about what kind of practical VR applications we could actually implement, there's it's still kind of distant in the future where actual practical applications might sit. But we know that there will be some places where VR is an optimal interface. And so we started thinking about how architects could use it. We knew it would be, widely usable in training situations, and then also real estate. It's kind of obvious choices for practical VR use. So we started with basically an idea, some challenges for how we could help people build environments on their own without really requiring the largest teams we had. And it kind of started from there. So it was really early steps in the phase one where we had to kind of prove out, all of the file transfer, all of the interactivity, multiplayer, and some of the gaming concepts even really before we could start to tune it towards practical use.
Yeah, and like when we started, it was mostly just an idea, and I was trying to figure out the best way to make that idea like as usable as possible for everyone. So I just had a lot of people try it and then see what they can do on themselves, like by themselves, without me guiding them. And what we ended up with is like something that I think a lot of people could get into without me having to be there to like explain everything to them.
Right.
That makes sense. Yeah. So like, what kind of applications are you thinking about, like in the real estate market? Or I guess just in like what kind of practical applications do you think people could use this for?
Yeah. Well, we think in particular architecture. Architects are already have to take care of CAD design. They already have 3D objects that they use whenever they're presenting architecture. They use building information modeling. They use STL and other types of objects. And so what we were trying to envision is how could they actually go ahead and create environments where they share them online and then have people from across the world view the architecture and walk around it. It's really difficult to envision scale whenever you're looking at something in 2D or on a piece of paper. But whenever you see it in 3D, it's a little easier. And that seemed like a natural fit. We also have been talking to a number of companies that were already working to try to solve training issues in VR, where they wanted to put people in scenarios that were more immersive than what they could do with just a YouTube video. And so we started thinking about what tools they would need in terms of like quizzes and other aspects of helping someone go through a room and basically stop and have to answer something correctly. So it starts to turn into sort of a toolkit. We think that it will work well for those use cases, but it's still pretty early too. I mean, we have a long development road ahead of us, but it is. I would say, like for example, if you look at the videos that we have, training videos, those are actually produced by our marketing group, and they're not software developers. So they're individuals that don't have a development background, and they were able to navigate the software pretty well and create VR environments that were interactive.
Yeah, I like the idea of abstracting it away, because I was trying to work on like some VR projects, and it takes a lot of information to figure it out.
Right.
This past fall, I went to a like convention sort of thing. It was like a VR convention. It was like the Unity Developers Day, and I saw that there was Microsoft Marquette. I don't know. Have you guys heard of that software?
No.
It seemed relatively similar to what you guys were doing, like kind of building environments and scenes in VR via VR. But it seemed more of the creative side. Like it presented more of like you can make fun little scenes for your games. Like, you have this palette, you have your controller,
Right.
you have like a palette, all of your items, I guess. It's like Minecraft, it seems like. And you could put things all over the place. How do you think that, like, do you guys think that you would ever work with a bigger company like that? Like, would you be in the market to, like, get eaten, so to speak? Not to put it in those, like, brash terms, but, become part of another company?
Well, I mean, I think if it benefits users of the platform, then that makes sense. But it really depends on whether or not it helps them.
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah.
What do you get from it, or does it somehow stunt the roadmap? Do you somehow limit the roadmap by doing that? But there are a lot. I think there will be many more, social platforms for VR, and we want to try to differentiate by just providing actual tools that help you solve problems in VR. Really, not so much just talk or create games.
Right. Yeah. What do you think what are your biggest challenges right now? Like, what's the hardest part about building this sort of application?
I think Yoon might say multi-user.
Yeah,
Okay.
multiplayer aspect is a big part of it, figuring out what architecture is the best for us, because there's a lot of ways to go about it, and we don't know yet what's the best way. So we're experimenting with a lot of different ways to handle that.
Okay.
Yeah, like in our first phase, which has basically taken about 12 to 14 months, I guess, we just started working towards the goal of, multi-user, being able to go ahead and create environments, upload whatever objects that I wanted to, and share them, and all of the like web application development regarding that, as well as all of the game engine development regarding that, and just started trying to make it work. And now, naturally, that we've gotten through phase one, we've looked at it and we said, oh well, some of these things aren't right. this is not the right way to approach it. And since we're really interested in building a platform that will have some use in the long term, we went back and reorganized it for the next phase, which we've started now. We started all the design and work for it, and it'll be somewhat different, and it'll scale out the design quite a lot. But we're doing it from the position of people that have been struggling with the concept for over a year. So I think it'll yield some good results.
Why is multiplayer or not multi? What am I saying? I'm so stuck in Minecraft. Why is like multi-user such a tough thing to conquer?
Well, multiplayer too. Yeah, part of it just getting people to like sharing files with each other. What's the best way to get those files to everyone, and then have them all loaded up properly? It's a lot easier when you're just dealing with files on your computer compared to sharing it with anyone online.
So it's not just like a server type of situation where like there's the hosting server and it's all the entities. I don't know nearly enough about this, so I'm just asking pretty broad questions. But like, would it just be like entities shared in a server type of thing?
Yeah, more or less. But there's like we're not just pushing files for like everyone. Like knowing the best, quickest way to get the files to everyone is a part of it, and dealing with those situations where some people have the files like properly, some people might not get them properly, and then how we make that all work for everyone online. It's just like a lot more issues come into it compared to if it was just one person designing a room by themselves and that's it.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. Do you guys have like plans after this? Like, do you have a grand master plan of taking over the VR world, or where would you like to go post Kickstarter potentially?
I think William's goal for Massive Limit is to get somewhere very far into the VR world.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there'll probably be a number of different metaverses. You know, you can Ready Player One.
Right,
I don't necessarily, and I think you could relate it to social networks, for example. Like, we have many different styles of social networks. We have many different ways to communicate, right? And one hasn't necessarily removed the need for the other. You might use Facebook, but you also use Slack. You might use Skype, but you also use Discord. You might use, so there are applications that will be in this realm that will be tuned and deliver a good experience for certain things, and others that deliver a good experience for other things.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, we feel like it's a good process to go through and kind of challenge ourselves to build it. Ideally, I think, first step is the idea that you can take whatever objects that you want, models, assets, media, and an individual who is like in a training department in a small company that doesn't have the benefit of software development resources could go ahead and assemble training material for their company in a matter of hours, tweak it, design it iteratively, keep on updating it, just like you would a Photoshop document, just like you would a YouTube video, and then ultimately gain control over building that content and decreasing the total development life cycle for it. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
For me, it was a lot about like getting that understandable and usable by everyone, as many people as possible, rather than just like software that only a few people can understand and only a few people might make use of it. I wanted to have something where a lot of people can get into like really easily and just start making stuff. Yeah.
How do you think like a product like Massive Loop or even this Microsoft Marquette, how do you think it'll impact like the grander, I guess, like the Ready Player One? You said like the Ready Player One multiverse. Like, how will that impact the way that people navigate VR? Like from the, even as they turn on their headset, like where do you think they'll go first?
In our particular application or in others? You mean what is the central hub?
Yeah, I guess like how do you think that'll evolve? Like how do you think the landing page, even just the main like landing page will evolve in VR? I guess this is more of a bigger question, maybe not so much like Massive Loop, but
right. Yeah, I think it needs an addressing scheme. So if you think about the web, for example, use DNS, and you're able to locate resources that way. And as resources become larger and larger, they'll probably borrow from infrastructure like the web in order to get a similar result. So you might see them, you might actually use name servers to navigate to a particular world, something like that. I was thinking out, that's a couple steps beyond what we're building right now. But I mean, I think when you get out to it, virtual environments or virtual worlds, they need an address. Basically, we need an addressing scheme, and that likely they will all be connected through the web.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I think for me that's like really often the future, because like we already had, we've had virtualization of our desktops. For example, there's like 3D games kind of where you can go into your desktop computer world and then launch games and things like that, but it's rarely been used because it's just not convenient compared to just doing it directly. So until like it's really convenient for users to do it in VR, I don't see that happening anytime like really soon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I feel like it would be the most convenient, because the stuff that Massive Loop is doing, you kind of don't have to leave your house anymore. I know it's like the classic example, but like if I can go to a business meeting or
Right.
if I'm in an architecture firm and I don't have to like, I can just go to their office and their office is in my face. That would be
Yeah.
pretty great. So I was also wondering about like what you guys thought the regulations might be for this sort of thing. Like, how do you think the government will get involved in like a VR sense? You know, because if
Good question.
yeah, if we could, maybe this. I thought it would be a fun thing
Yeah.
to go over.
It's a great question. How will the government get involved in regulating content, like visiting specific sites, for
Right.
example,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
specific world? Yeah. I think that's a great question.
I think it'll be similar to just how a lot of other sites like Twitter and YouTube do it. They just regulate themselves so that the government doesn't have to get involved.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That'll work to a point, and then
Right.
companies themselves will use content filtering probably, so that like if you're on a network now, most corporate firewalls allow content filtering, so it says I will not allow visits to anything that's related to adult material or weapons or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think you'll see a lot of that borrowed. So the content will be flagged, likely. Worlds will be flagged as appropriate or not for a particular audience.
That makes sense. Yeah. I just worry about like Google owning VR, like, and then it's like the true Ready Player One.
Right. Yeah.
I see Amazon trying to get there.
Oh yeah.
I think Google.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense. I'm sure Bezos is excited about that. It would help their logistics model. They wouldn't have to have it anymore. That'd be cool. How did you guys first hear of VR? Like, what got you excited about it first? Like the first program.
My first was at a VR arena in a mall, like maybe 2.5 years ago, and I played Space Pirates.
Oh, nice! That's so fun. Yeah.
Fire Trainer, and then before jumping off to start human mode, my son and I we had bought an early Oculus, and we're playing with it, and I was just really impressed by the potential of it. As a software developer, I was like, this is really great. I mean, this is a fantastic platform to build.
Yeah.
And I was always interested in graphics and animation anyway, so it kind of made sense.
Yeah, at USC it's easy to get involved in VR because it's everywhere there. Because of Lucky Palmer.
Oh yeah.
And the stuff he does there, it's just everywhere. All the classes, they talk about it, and you get exposure to it. But I haven't really considered making stuff for it until I got my first internship. It was architecture software, and then I saw hey, it's more than just games. There's actually a lot of practical usage to it. So that's when I saw that.
Yeah, that makes sense. What did you guys do before this? What made you jump off the cliff? I'm assuming you guys both have jobs before this.
Well, I graduated USC, and this is my first job, so I didn't
crazy.
really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was the early software engineer for a company called Paycom that is a public company today.
Oh, cool.
And I was the CIO for about 9 years. And so I had worked in the accounting field for about 20 years, and decided I wanted to really focus on, I guess, far-reaching technology, because I just love technology, and I'm a bit of a futurist, and I like looking, forward, seeing how these things evolve, and so it's pretty much what I'd be doing at home if I didn't have a job.
Okay, cool, yeah.
Anyways.
And did you say that you were an animator before, or you were into animation? Is that what you said?
Yeah, when I was younger, I worked on a lot of digital audio and animation. Then it was Lightwave, really, even before 3D Studio Max and Maya took over. Lightwave from Newtek was really popular. But I have some experience, so I'm not. So when we're talking with our 3D generalists, it's not too far-reaching for me to get the concepts.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know you guys.
My background was primarily in SaaS, software as a service, and web application development and web infrastructure. So.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I know a lot of people here at USC who are software developers, but also like want to get into more VR stuff and are in the futurist camp as well.
We should.
Yeah. Yoon, how was your USC experience? You were in the game school, right?
The Viterbi school, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. There's a big difference between the Viterbi games program versus the SEA games program.
Uh-huh.
Have you met people from both? And kind of like...
I've met more people from the SCA program.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm taking a few ITP classes right now. So a lot of the games people, or the SCA games people are taking, like C++ and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think it's a good time to be in the SCA program and not in the Viterbi program.
Oh, okay.
Because right now there's just like so much turmoil going on with Viterbi and the professors and the funding compared to SCA. They get like infinite funding, infinite money. Like they can just get whatever technologies they want, and they have access to like everything. So at USC we definitely felt the Viterbi kids definitely felt like kind of like outsiders compared to the SCA kids. And I'm hoping in the future that like gap is made smaller because they do need to work together, and to make these projects, for almost every project they are working together, but like we don't get the same resources. Right. So I think if that was made better in the future, that'd be really good.
That's interesting because I feel like the Viterbi class would be more like stereotypically useful, like in the gaming field. I feel like
that's the reason I picked Viterbi. It's just more useful in general. Like if I didn't want to get into games, I'd know how to code. I could do anything. Right. Compared to if I was strictly game design, that's the only thing I could do.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So how did you hear about Massive Loop after graduating?
I was just looking around LinkedIn. I think that's where I found it.
Oh, nice.
Just kind of looking around everywhere, and at first I didn't know anything about Oklahoma, so I was kind of like scared about coming here. And then like I was doing a lot of research, figuring out the company, figuring out the state, but it turned out all right. Like it's a lot of things that I was scared of ended up not coming true. Like I heard Oklahoma's really high in crime rates, and that was like something I was scared of, but it like doesn't really matter over here.
You came from LA and you were afraid of Oklahoma crime rates?
It's actually a lot better because like in LA there's gangs everywhere. Here there's not really gangs.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. I'd be excited to see some Oklahoma gangs though. I feel like that could be a fun like gang to be a part of. I don't know why that doesn't make sense, but that's all right.
I was interested in like the gang culture around USC. They're surrounded by the Bloods, and they're trying to keep out the Crips in that territory.
Right.
That's always interesting.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a fun time.
Yeah.
How is the? Because I haven't heard too much about the tech scene in Oklahoma. How is it being like based out there? Like based in Oklahoma, do you see any like benefits? Like, do you like working in Oklahoma as opposed to like a Silicon Valley typical startup type of thing?
Well, you get less competition, and like I definitely wouldn't want to work in like a high density, like a high traffic area for me. Like dealing with too many people versus getting to know your community a little more.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's not like super small, but it's like small enough that a lot of the tech people just kind of know each other, and like if they need something, if they got a technology that maybe we can use, we could talk to them about it, and people just kind of generally know each other.
Okay. Do you collaborate often with other companies around?
Not yet, but we do keep in touch, but we haven't. I don't think we've done anything with them yet.
Sure. But they are friendly. They're really helpful, actually.
Okay. That's fun.
There's not a lot of game companies in Oklahoma, so I guess a small community. They kind of work together a bit.
Yeah.
Also, traffic's much better.
Oh yeah,
of
course. Have you, Mitch? Have you ever worked in like LA?
Sure, get Mitch. I can go.
Oh, sure.
He got out of the room. Oliver had a question for you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oliver's got a question.
Okay, he's back.
So, I guess where are you from? What's your position in the company?
So I'm the digital marketing specialist at Human Mode.
Okay.
I'm from Dallas, Texas, but I moved to Oklahoma for college. So I went to Oklahoma State, and I actually did sports media,
Ooh.
like video production in sports media. And then I got a job at a advertising agency for a couple years, freelance for a couple years, and then one day decided to maybe look for another job and found Human Mode.
Are you the one working on the Discord and all the PR stuff? Okay.
Yeah, so I kind of work on all social media for Human Mode and our projects, and done a couple Discords now, and
trailers.
Yeah, cutting trailers and tutorials and all that kind of stuff. But, yeah, it's a really fun place to work, Human Mode. We're doing all kinds of different stuff, so sometimes it's me watching video game trailers, which doesn't really feel like work. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, do you guys think that you would ever get into the video game space?
Yeah, I think so. We do have a game that is released.
Yeah.
Called Stratoescape. That's on Steam.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay.
we built it as a test so that we could learn more about building in VR. It helped, I guess, as we're applying what the game group is learning to also help out with what the master group is learning. So you just get, I guess, faster learning that way. I think there's if you look at the breadth of development in VR today is still in games, and so to not know that at all is, I think, a mistake. So you have to know games well, I think, to know VR well.
Who do you think is doing VR the best right now? Maybe not the best, but who do you think is really doing VR well?
Well, Oculus is definitely aggressively pursuing it.
Yeah. In terms of hardware, I like Oculus.
Even more than the Vive?
Microsoft is too, but not necessarily VR, but XR in general.
Right.
Microsoft really more focused on the HoloLens and AR. They're definitely aggressive.
Yeah. I see the Vive is still trying their best, and they're doing some innovative things. But in terms of cost, I see Oculus winning by far in that. Yeah. And in terms of software, there's this company, I forgot the name, but it's based in LA, and a lot of them are USC students, and they're constantly making really good games in VR. Oh, it's called Servios.
Sorry, what is it called again?
Servios.
Servios?
And they're doing a lot in the VR industry. They're trying to make a VR arcade, a physical space. They made a lot of games. They're just doing a lot in VR right now.
Oh, that's cool. Are you guys as you progress in the creation of this VR abstraction tool, are you guys using your own tool to build your platform at all? Because I know you're not really making you're just making the tool, but do you find yourself using your own tool at all yet?
Oh, using the tool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cases where we would really like to, especially when we're doing architecture and such.
Right.
We're setting up a new office, and we actually are working with an architecture firm for that. And we're often looking at paper, paper renderings, and we're like, man, this would be so cool. We could actually just upload it into the application. So we've been, working towards that because I think it's a real practical use for us. But I think also when you think about the platform tools, on the back end, we really are building those tools for multiple environments. So there's a lot of development around, sharing data and sharing information for the world that we'll be able to apply to our games and other things.
Who do you think are like your main competitors right now? Like, who are you looking out for, I guess?
Yeah, I think in looking for practical use in VR for business cases, there's not a lot of them. There are more metaverses. I think if you look at the Oculus Home is essentially a gateway, and they've kind of teed it up to be that, it seems.
Yeah.
Also, EOS. I'm trying to think if there's any other. Yeah, there's some blockchain projects that are also in kind of the metaverse space.
Yeah, I don't know if I would consider them like competitors, but there's a lot of other like apps that I look to for reference and inspiration. Yeah, like VR Chat,
Gary's Mod.
High Fidelity, Gary's Mod, and Minecraft too. Like a lot of some of the scripting part for Massive Loop I got from Minecraft.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like what, for example?
Just the redstone, the redstone programming.
Oh, that's crazy.
The way it works.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you guys play Minecraft as kids, or so, or maybe even just recently?
I did. I played a lot of Minecraft. That's why I was able to like understand like the scripting part of it a little better.
I played it. Yeah, I played it with my son. He's extremely good. He's very good.
I've never really played it, honestly.
He usually just flies around and drops down diamond swords and gold-plated armor screen. I think there's a lot of places to take inspiration from. Like Steve said, that even if those platforms like have similarities, you're pretty much going your own direction, and if you go out 3, 4, 5 years, you're going to end up in a completely different place. It's like if you had 5 individuals trying to build a 3D animation package. They might have similar tools, some of them, but in general, they're still going to be wildly different 5 years out, 7 years out. So we all kind of start here. I guess most art and most design is through appropriation in a way, because all technology builds on the last technology.
Right.
So we all kind of make analogies to say this is going to be like this, or it's kind of like this, or it's kind of like that. But they all kind of start there, but as they travel in their own direction, they tend to take on their own personality. So I feel that as we go out 4 or 5 years from now, our focus is different than a lot of the other tools there, that it'll end up resulting in kind of a different platform altogether.
That makes sense. Do you have any like big worries about potential changes in the VR landscape? Like, what don't you want to see that might affect the company, or just like the landscape at large too?
Not really. I mean, we acknowledge this is pretty early in VR. We don't really know whether or not we're at sort of the Nokia flip phone phase of smartphones in terms of hardware. We definitely made advancements, but is it really practical for everyday use? And the amount of time you might want to spend in it to do productive things. Can you spend more than 30 minutes or an hour in it? There's still a lot of work, I think, in the hardware platforms that has to happen to make it more and more viable. The Quest was really, I think, a good jump to become untethered from the PC, and also that it's still relatively affordable. Although the games and applications on it are pretty limiting,
right?
Because they have really high requirements for polygon count and other aspects of the platform. So it's you're going to have a limited number of applications that are actually present on it. But yeah.
I think in VR you really have to be flexible because like things are always changing. So you know you can't be in a place where you're relying on this one technology to be good for like 5 years because it's not going to be in VR.
Right.
Yeah.
So early to tell. But we feel that the need for a platform like we're building, that there will be one. And so, you know, it's not a short-term project or a temporary project. We're just kind of scratching the surface and learning as we, you know, often through mistakes, you know, just as we try to build it and say, okay, well, this didn't work out, and you know, we're gonna improve it on the next iteration, and so hopefully we'll make as few mistakes as possible on that path. But some will happen.
As it goes, I guess. What is the how's the Kickstarter going? Like, what are you guys trying to achieve with the Kickstarter besides, you know, getting money, which is, you know?
Yeah, sure. So we have a goal of $5,000 on the Kickstarter, and we would apply it absolutely to helping build the core asset library. That asset library is basically a library that is kind of stock objects and media that are royalty free, so that you can use them in all your projects without having to go, you know, model or build or buy.
Interesting.
3D.
Okay.
So it's there. It's kind of a sketchpad set of resources, and we'd like it to be pretty large. We'll start off with hundreds of objects, but we'd like it to be, you know, even more in the future. So we'll apply it to that. We're also going to apply it to, you know, the hosting costs, because, you know, there is some unknowns with regard to the amount of storage, and because we're talking about what objects users want to transfer, not necessarily just objects that we're restricting them to.
Right.
You know, it could be whatever they want uploaded. So, you know, there's some there's definitely going to be some cost related to hosting. But yeah, $5,000 was the goal, and we also just really want to engage with the community of people that are enthusiastic about VR, especially early adopters. You know, because this platform, it's not really set in stone. It's a platform that can evolve. We have a roadmap that we're following, and we aim to hit those goals, but that doesn't mean that there aren't areas that we haven't even considered that could be useful to people. So we really also want to really have an opportunity to engage with people that are interested in using it, and there might be some practical uses for VR that they considered. They're like, hey, I would really love it if you could try this, and you know, we're in the really liquid stage of design, and we are flexible enough to do it. So.
Because when you talk about the asset library, that's one of the things that's been interesting to me a lot, because I feel like that's a space for a lot of people to make an obscene amount of money by selling assets and stuff. So you said you'd like to have a free library. Why is that? I mean, I like it. Huge fan myself, but
well, stock objects, so that you can essentially white box your idea. So like, you know, normally in game design, you might start off with a white box scenario where you're trying to work out a training scenario, but you don't necessarily have the rendered object yet. And it would be better to have a fill-in that you could go ahead and work with immediately to test your concept than to wait for the modeling to be complete or for you to find the perfect asset. So it's basically just to give you some flexibility in being able to set up your world the way that you want. And you can always replace objects in the future, but I think it's going to reduce the you know, one of the obstacles of getting started if you actually have objects there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's the main goal. It's not to say that you might not prefer other objects, and you very well may. And in some cases, maybe those objects will be just fine for what you were trying to accomplish. But it's just to give you, you know, kind of a helper, I guess, a helping hand and reduce time, so that you can build what you want.
Cool.
I just find it really important when it comes to just learning what you can do, just playing around with a bunch of assets that are already there. And then once you understand how to use those, then you can understand, you know, what I have to bring in if I want to try to do this, and what I have to get. Having like a base tools available for you at the beginning, I think that's really important.
Would you ever consider expanding to incorporate that kind of like marketplace, like the marketplace of things? Okay, cool.
Yeah, that is in our design, a marketplace, and we think that would be great for people to share both that and, you know, scripts that they develop, because some people want to spend more time at it than others. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's essentially all the time I have. But thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you sticking around through all the technical difficulties.
Thank you. I mean, it was fun. Yeah, playing Minecraft too.
Oh,
I think it was a good idea.
Thank you. Yeah, if you ever want to hop in this server, go ahead. I mean, it's open for the public now. No, it's not. Definitely not open for the public. But yeah. So yeah. Thank you guys so much. Good luck with your Kickstarter. I hope it goes well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Have a good night.
All right. You too. Bye. All right. Goodbye, stream. Thank you for tuning in. If you did, oh, there goes my phone. Just dropped it everywhere. Yeah, that was the guys from Massive Loop. They seem cool. Seem like they have a good system going. I'm excited to see what they do. I'm really interested in the asset library. I feel like that asset library is going to be a huge thing where people, you know, different brands will come up selling things on the internet. They'll be like you can buy a hat, put it on, and it's like a Gucci VR hat. I feel like that'd be a lot of fun. Unfortunately, my Minecraft, I didn't know what I was doing. I was doing a bunch of assorted things, trying to build this house, and I thought it'd be cool to have like a cave down here too. But you know, we'll see how this goes. It looks pretty hideous right now, but I promise in future interviews, future streams, it'll be a little bit better. It's raining now, and I have a meeting at 4 o'clock, so I don't know if I'll be able to make it, but we'll see. Stay tuned. Thanks for tuning in, and see you guys next time.